Well, hello, everybody. Your old pal Billy Tucci here. And I want to welcome you to episode number 117 of Crowdfunding Comics. And we're going to do something a little different here with this show. This is going to be the first of our series of episodes called Hollywood Horror Stories, or more in tune, the misadventures of comic book creators in La Land. This will be the first in the series. And we're going to be interviewing comic book creators and Hollywood types. I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of people, and their run-ins with run-ins in Tinseltown when it comes to meeting directors, writers, artists, actors, producers, and going to premieres and things like that. So without further ado, I've got my popcorn ready, and you should get yours as well. Got my popcorn, got my drink, got my pipe, and without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guests. First, my co-host, Mr. Nile Scala, followed by my pal, the cat's meow, Stephen Peros, and of course, the incomparable Mr. Paul Jenkins. Welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Welcome. Yes. Salud.
Lovely.
Very
Sorry, we
on you all.
Yeah, yes.
Cheers, cheers. Cling, 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 cling.
All right for Hollywood. Now,
all about history, bro.
Yeah. Now, Paul, I got to tell you, I'm a little bummed out. You'd notice in our pre-show that I'm wearing this illustrious kit. You see that?
Beautiful.
It says to Billy. Do you know who this signed by?
Who's it signed by, Billy?
To Billy, Charlie George.
Charlie George, one of the best, man. He was a brilliant player.
Isn't that awesome?
Absolutely.
My prize is this is the first and only time I've ever worn it. It's backwards.
Well, I got my Crystal Palace stuff with me right here, buddy.
There you go, buddy. There
you know how it goes. I'll fly the flag for us while we're busy working, so that's all good.
There you go, pal.
You
So, ladies and gentlemen, hey Matthew, say hello.
Hi.
Matthew.
All right, there goes Matthew. Somehow my son has gotten a Hitler youth haircut. I told this. I told my wife that, and she got mad at me. It's very stylish, apparently.
Jesus.
But I mean, right?
I don't like it like that.
Guys?
I don't like it like that.
Well, when you comb it, looks good, but when you leave it down, you look like you're ready to start, practicing throwing stick grenades.
I don't like it like this.
In the Bavarian
forest. I
forest.
don't like it when I go there. I like
All right. Well, good luck with that one, there, buddy.
Honestly, Billy, not so much a Hitler Youth as just plain Hitler.
Yeah. Well, his mother is German.
All right.
Racist.
Polish, Lithuanian, and mean. But anyway, so guys, if you don't mind, thank you all for joining us. This is our first recorded show, isn't it, Nile?
It is. Well, besides our panels at conventions, this is the first crowdfunding comics recorded show, and it's nice.
We got contacted by YouTube because of the algorithms, and it helps them promote our shows more because we've now surpassed well over 2,000 subscribers in such a short time. Thank you all, and and we really appreciate that. So now we're getting bigger super chats. We're getting a lot of advertising, and they're like, "Listen, if you guys do more recorded shows, we'll push your show more."
Right. And so Paul and I are on the lower end. So this is where you work the kinks out on guys like us. Is that how it works?
I'm starting at the top, old chum.
All right. Let's keep it that way.
The very top. So, guys, if you don't mind, Stephen, if you don't mind introducing yourself to the audience for the people that might not know you.
Well,
can we give Stephen the forum?
My name is Steve Peros. Hello, everybody. Billy and I have known each other since junior high, and just like a bad penny, he just keeps turning up in my life. I've tried to avoid him. We tried to go to separate colleges, and yet he still keeps calling me. I haven't changed my number. I don't know why. That said, I'm a film writer, TV writer, recently segued into graphic novels. And last fall, my first graphic novel, Stoker and Wells, Order of the Golden Dawn, debuted with beautiful art by Barry Orkin, who has worked with Billy a number of times on She Way of the Warrior as well. And we've gotten some tremendous reviews across the board from mainstream media like LA Weekly to also all of the comic reviewing websites. So much so that Billy finally had confidence in me to work outside of my film and TV world. And I am now, literally, as we speak, co-writing with Billy, She, Return of the Warrior, and having a ball doing it. And that's my story.
Tally-ho. Kelly Ho, and Mr. Paul Jenkins, a man in the comics industry that needs no introduction. But if you don't mind just sharing a little bit with you for the folks out there that may not know you, the imbeciles, the insoles, the Neanderthals out there.
Well, I've been in this business for about 31 years. I was the third employee of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I saw a tiny little office in Northampton, Massachusetts. I went to Marvel, kind of helped them rebuild their content with the Inhumans. But I wrote the origin of Wolverine for them in comics. However, I'm also a game designer. So I've worked in, I've worked on a number of platinum selling video games. I'm a filmmaker. So I am a guy that really moves across different media. I have my own company to do cross-media stuff in Georgia, and I don't know. I've been doing it for so long that I got all these lines. Every single one of these is a comic book.
Oh, you still look like a baby, a little baby.
I brought this over as a tribute to you.
Awesome.
So of course everyone know
he's a mutant turtle. I mean, come on, he's Gamera.
Yeah.
He can't be Gamera, for God's sakes.
I actually have my original Ninja Turtles comics right over there, 1 through 4.
He's a huge fan.
Huge.
Of
Huge.
yours.
Well,
I still sleep with my Ninja Turtle comforter.
Thanks for your contribution. There are a few that were mine. If you remember the Ninja Turtle pinball machine, that was one of my designs for them.
Oh, wow.
That machine right there.
Yeah.
I wish.
Yeah.
And the electronic talking toothbrush. I did all kinds of stuff before I was in the comic book industry, to be honest.
That's cool.
Very cool.
That's cool.
So, and everyone knows Nile Scala. So, our co-host for over 116 episodes. Well done, Nile.
Over 120 episodes, dude.
Over 120 episodes we've done of this.
Officially an
hours you'll
influencer.
never get back, Billy.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly. 120 hours or double it.
What a
So
good
we're going to go an hour today. And the point of this, Paul, is that I had the privilege of being on Paul's channel a few days ago. And it was just so funny. We would start talking about our Hollywood experiences. And this conversation pops up all the time at conventions and things like that with other comic pros and self-publishers and things like that, of just your adventures in Hollywood. And we all have that. So, and it really is, we're all like fish out of water, you know what I mean, when we go there. And the great thing is a lot of stories kind of are the same in a way that they're so used to people really like wanting that brass ring, which you all do. But, but each and every one of us have a story that takes them back. Like, wait a minute, what? That no one's ever said. We usually say things to them that no one's ever said to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty great. So I don't know. I've had a lot of fun with my adventures in Hollywood. I was able to make up my own short film.
Mm-hmm.
And we put it into 2 film festivals. Put in the Long Island Film. It's called Some Trouble of a Serious Nature. We put it into the Long Island Film Festival, and we won for Best Short Film. It was also in the San Diego Comic-Con Film Festival. There was no awards prize for that. And then I think I was in something else. I'm looking at, I can't see. But and then I realized you had to pay for these film festivals. I'm like, wow, you got to really pay to submit your stuff to these film festivals. So I kind of didn't submit it to any other festivals. But it was a fun time, a great time doing the movie, a great experience. And we will be doing on Crowdfunding Comics a live movie premiere. And we're going to bring in all the old cast. So we're going to do a nice show and have the cast speaking. We'll show the film. We'll show the 19-minute version of it. And then we'll have the cast and crew talking about the film. So I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Are you going to show the theatrical 19-minute cut or the what's happening there? The 19-minute, 20-second director's cut.
No, it's 26 minutes is the director's cut. Oh, I see. No. The director's cut is 26 minutes, which it has a better pace, but the credits are really long. I think the credits are like 5 minutes long, and that were 4 minutes long.
It's interesting. I come to this from a different place than Billy. Is that I'm actually so Billy and I have crossed paths as Billy went from comics to film, and now I'm going from film and dealing into comics because I went to NYU, majored in film and TV, and all of my work initially and continues to be in film and TV, and I've sold pilots, and I've had features made. And so Billy had this feature idea, and which is actually really was quite amusing as someone who had been out pitching, understanding what pitching film and TV is all about. So here's Billy from Bayport, Long Island, coming out to Hollywood, which he loathes because he can't really get his arms around it and understand it.
I
Just doesn't
Paul,
get it.
I hate it out there.
Yeah. So he comes out here, and we rehearsed this pitch, and we're going to trade off, because I don't usually pitch with a co-writer, and it was an idea that Billy and had come up with, some partners of his, and I was sort of the experienced screenwriter who's going to come take it along, and we had some pitches set up through my agent at the time, and I remember one pitch in particular.
And I was with CAA and they said more. Remember we did a whole.
Oh we had a bunch of pitches, and I remember one pitch. A guy I think who's passed away now, and he was pretty big producer. We sit down in front of him. This big, giant, smelly, hot sandwich.
Oh my God!
In front of him, like big Italian sub kind of thing with hot, like with meatballs and mozzarella sauce dripping all over it. And he says, "You guys don't mind if I eat during your pitch?" And I just realized he isn't really asking a question. Is there really room for us to say we mind? We would appreciate it if you put it somewhere else. So we have to pitch to this guy over this sandwich. And then I find that all he really wanted to do was zing me about the movie that I had written that came out that was about a murder on William Randolph Hearst's yacht. Now, he didn't think there was a murder. Like, he never returned to the pitch.
Yeah.
But Billy did a really honest thing, too, because this is all the same pitch. During that same pitch, an assistant came in the door.
Oh, my God, that's right.
Sorry, it was during Billy's portion. And Billy's there like this. And he goes, Billy starts talking, because we were really determined to not look at notes, during it. Like, you had to have it memorized, which now I know is BS. So Billy goes, yeah, I'm so sorry. I just got so fucking thrown when your assistant came in the room.
What is going on? And that's a person, Paul, this is the person that my agent at CAA set up. And you told him the pitch, and he said, set it up. Big. He showed me the email.
Big dude. He was. They were big producers for sure.
Yeah, and with all exclamation points, set it up. And then Steve, but it was also that he said first thing is, I gotta let you guys know I hate pitches.
Yeah.
And like, and now Paul, I just went over the hill. I had to go over the hill in Hollywood.
Let me tell you something, guys. I was at William Morris Endeavor for a while, and they would send me out on these pitch junkets. Right. And it's exhausting. It's stupid. I mean, every single time my agent would put me on the other side of the 405, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then get me my next meeting at 6 o'clock up in Burbank.
Oh,
man, you got to be kidding me, right? They would do this stuff to me all the time. But I have so many stories of walking into pitches because I'm kind of a punk, right? So if someone's a prick, I'm going to tell them they're a prick.
Good.
That's probably not the best thing to do in Hollywood. So I remember one time my agent sent me into a pitch, and I walk in the door, and this 22-year-old development executive sort of looks at me, and he's yawning.
Oh.
Right? And he walks in yawning, and he sits down, and he yawns again. And I'm like, am I keeping you up, mate? And I'm like, am I keeping you up? And he looks at me, and now he's trying to work out, what do I do? Do I charge this guy? And I'm like, please charge me. And because I don't take that kind of like rudeness, right?
Totally.
And so I said, if you did a lot of coke last night, mate, then don't come into work today. I think that was probably the 5 o'clock meeting on the other side of the 405, and I was just over it that day. But you're going to walk in the door with a 22-year-old development executive that doesn't know anything, that's too coked up to even bother with it. I'm not even going to start, man. I'm not pitching to you. And so I call my agent, just yell at him a little bit, and then move on. Because I'm not a curmudgeon. I'm over it. I've already done it before, so I don't need to do it again. The one thing with me is that I'm unfortunately the guy that crosses all of those things, because I work in film, and I'm currently directing a Star Trek project, and we're lining up to do a couple of projects here in Georgia. And in fact, I chaired an advisory committee for Governor Deal, the previous governor here, on film and digital interactive. So I've been involved in film for a long time, and animation, and I've dealt with LA in all kinds of ways. So you're going to walk me in a pitch meeting. I'm not going to suffer you, for fuck's sake. I'm going to we're either going to do it or we're not.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you said you're directing something for Star Trek?
Yeah, I'm doing it. Actually, it's not for CBS. So it started life as this fan project called Axonar, and they raised $1.5 million. So they came into town here, and I was introduced to the guy behind it. And so he asked me to come on and direct for him and to rewrite the project. So right now we're in it. I don't know if I'm able to share pictures, but if I am, then I will show you some pictures of our stuff that we're doing right now.
Is that animated?
No, exactly.
I saw some of the pictures. If you're able to share it, please do.
I will do that. Yeah, as we get talking, I'll find some stuff for us to look at.
Yeah, because I know I just asked that because I remember reading that there was supposed to be another Star Trek show. It's supposed to be like the people behind the scenes, like not like the main crew. It's like, just that guy that's working on the warp drive in the corner. It's supposed to be like an animated series.
Yeah,
but I haven't heard anything new about it in a while.
Called Red Shirts or something.
Yeah.
Well, we're also doing a comedy called Warped, and it's basically a Star Trek kind of comedy with like the worst captain in the fleet.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they're on the edge of the galaxy, but like he says, it's a long way away, so no one gives a shit. And and so they've given up on the prime directive where they're not going to interfere with any aliens. And now they're just like having sex with anybody that they run into. Right? So,
that's my kind of ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, where's the status of Warped? Because I saw the production photos and things.
It was the last thing that we filmed a few weeks ago before the coronavirus locked us all up. So, in fact, we got it in the can and we're editing it right now.
Nice.
I'm frantically fielding texts from my producer right now because he's editing some stuff and he wants stuff off of me, but he can wait. I got friends to hang out with.
Yeah. Well.
I should drink to that, huh?
Yeah, I'll drink to that too.
Cheers.
So here's the thing. So going back to that story with the meeting we had, and Steve also, remember, he was the one, like the only Republican in Hollywood, and I'm like, oh my God.
I will leave that to you to remember.
Yeah, and because he had to sign. And Keith's like, you're gonna love this guy. He's gonna love you. Blah blah. And the thing is that I said the whole pitch went that he just wanted to meet Steve because, and this is Peter Bogdanovich directed this movie. And he wanted to argue with Steve over Steve's story of the killing of Thomas Ince on the Oneida in 1924. And remember, that was a whole meeting. It was him just if I made this movie, if I wrote this movie.
The term catfish didn't exist back then, but it's a total cat. Like, wait, what? Wait, why are we here?
Yeah.
And wait a minute. And I can only respond, wait, my goal here is for you to buy the show Billy and I are pitching, so I guess what I'm supposed to do is agree with you.
No, but the thing was, remember, he wanted to see how close it was to a film he was developing.
Oh, what did it?
Remember that it was based on a kid who goes just like a Camp Granada thing. The kid that goes.
Oh, right, yeah. He just came out and said it. Yeah. I'm not really going to do yours. I'm doing another kid's sports thing. I just wanted to see how close it was to mine. It's like, the hell?
And now I'm like, what? Now I'm Steve, I blow up.
Yeah.
And I'm just steaming, and Steve's like, Billy, okay, thank you very, you know what I mean? Because he's been through the game before, like you, Paul. I'm just like, what?
There's a famous thing with me that people know that if any Hollywood executive, I'm going to come across as a curmudgeon, but if anybody does this to me, my hackles will go up. Because I'm not into it.
What is that? Well, I'm going to ask for advice later
they're
on.
Like talking and they're like this.
Yeah.
So
like,
just
I love your shirt.
What does this mean? Is just like, let me help you, or you're in the wrong direction, or
they want to say so. Thought, let me give you a thought.
Right.
So namaste, and I'm like, no, this proceeds. Now I'm going to say some bullshit.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So I'm not into it, but I was, I kind of tell a story about a time I was working with Disney, and they had asked me to come in to do something for them. So like, basically consulting with them on VR and AR and stuff like that. And they wanted me to tell them about how virtual reality storytelling would work. And I'm pretty opinionated about it because I do a lot of like talks about it. And storytelling works no matter what you do, right? But it's using the tools properly. And it's not the best tool in the world because half the people that use it throw up. And, you know, if you walk in a straight line, you smash your nose into the door. So I'm not a big fan of it. But I think augmented reality is amazing. And so we're going to use VR assets. Anyway, long story. But I remember walking with a couple of Disney executives, and they wanted to hear my ideas, and we wanted to use Tron. But they wouldn't let us use Tron. So for virtual reality, they wouldn't let us use Tron.
Really?
Because the film people had control of it, and so they weren't going to let us touch it, which is the most absurd thing in the world. So I pitch a few ideas, and I say, well, I think this is the way that you tell a story with virtual reality. And the guy goes, let me ask you a question. And then he asked me, hey, do you think you could do anything with Herbie the Love Bug in virtual reality, right? And I said, yeah, I've got a good idea. Why don't you, here's my idea. And I think I did this as well. I'm like, here's my
So you do that back to them?
No, fuck you. I'm doing that, right? So he goes, you know, tell me then. I'll go, yeah, I got an idea for you. So what you need to do is imagine that you're sitting in Herbie and you've got virtual reality and you've got a steering wheel in your hands and they're like, go on. And I'm like, yeah, and you're driving. And, you know, and now you got fluffy dice right there. And it's like you're literally driving Herbie the Love Bug. And now you can pull him out in virtual reality and drive him down the street and wave to everybody. And so they look at each other and they go, that sounds amazing. And I said, why don't you just drive to work? Because they don't care and they don't understand and they don't want to understand. There is no method to putting you in Herbie the Love Bug. Just build a Herbie and then drive it. You know?
Right. Unless it flies, I guess, or something happens to Herbie. But yeah, just driving it. No, the thing about it is an entirely different language when you pitch, and there are actually it is devoid of typical human codes and receptors and things that make actually any discernible sense. I've had situations. I went and I pitched a rewrite of a comedy to 3 people. And I said, you know, I'm going to come in here and my pitch is going to be very different because you guys, I know we're looking for someone to do a polish. And I've kind of rethought the whole thing because I think really inherently this is a broken script. And I pitched this whole thing and I thought it was very funny, very funny. And I'm sitting there and the 3 of them were like this, just staring at me. And I was like, and then it was over. No questions, which is always the sign of death. They don't want to actually engage with you. Well, I was there. Thank you. I walk out. I call my agent. Go, well, yeah, well, that went disastrously. And then next day, they want to hire you. You're in. I was like, and then when I talk about the codes, it makes sense. I went on a whole round pitching this 1-hour drama about a year and a half ago. And one of them I pitched, you know, they say, oh, you always want to pitch the decision maker if you can. One we did was actually the freaking president of the network. And she sat there with a cup of tea. She was so excited the whole time I was pitching. Really? And really saying things like, no, oh my gosh, what happens next? And I go, oh, I got this in the palm of my hands. And she's like, oh. And when it's over, she was like, I just don't have anything to say. And she looks at her assistants. Do either of you? Well, that was just wonderful. And she puts her hot tea down. And we find out she passed. Absolutely no reason whatsoever. The one who said yes of all the networks we pitched to 5 networks were appropriate. The last one we went into, she was like, yeah, listen to the pitch like this, huh? And she turned to the producers because they were in the room too, asked a couple of technical questions about what the deal would, you know, about how you guys come in, how do you guys all fit in? Notes. Yeah. All right. It was the end of the day. All right, everybody. Everyone wants to go home. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye. They bought it. They bought the show.
Stephen, this thing you're talking about, like there's no code. It's also true of the opposite, right? I have made a pitch that there was actually a woman that used to work at Fox, and the very first time I went over to her, I pitched a story that, you know, was sort of based in reality, and she started crying. She was so moved by the story, and she starts crying. And I'm thinking, well, that couldn't have gone any better.
Right.
And they pass. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to say at this point, but okay. So a few months later, I ended up right back in her office with something else. And I tell her another story, and she starts weeping. She's like really crying. She's like, I love you so much. You are the most amazing storyteller. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, but you fucking passed on me last time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so amazing.
Yeah.
Why aren't you giving me this job? You know, surely you want this project. And so I pitched to her. She's weeping. I go back and I sort of wait, and I know what the answer is going to be. And a couple of weeks go by, and then it's like, no, they passed. They're not interested. And you sit there. I do think she might have liked it. So the third time I went into that woman, I literally had a story lined up that I just knew was going to make her cry. Lovely girl, but come on, man.
Yeah.
Do you think she probably couldn't reiterate your story? She could not, like, you know what I mean? Like, instead of her talking to her, whomever she had to talk to, or whoever she had.
They also have to pitch it upstairs, depending on.
Shouldn't she have called you back in?
Yeah, she couldn't pitch it upstairs is the problem. She couldn't make it move, right? And so that was always the problem with it. You know, actually, she was quite straight about it. She told me the second time. I'll tell you exactly what happened. She also, once I pitched that thing, she said to me, how would you feel about doing Sherlock Holmes in America? Right? And I said, this is a number of years ago. And I said, yeah, I can do that. And by the time I got to the elevator, I'd already worked out an idea. And the idea was really cool. And so I pitched her that. I sent her that. And she said, this is amazing. I knew that we would work with you. This is it. This is what we've been looking for. And then they were concurrently developing the one that ended up coming out with Lucy Liu in it. And then they called me and said, no, we can't do it with you because we got another one in production. I'm like, why did you ask me for this stuff?
Yeah.
Oh. Mine was better.
I'm sure.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. Like you're talking about pitches and things like that, and you know anyone that's watching this is going to see. I mean, how do you go about even getting in front of someone to do a pitch? Are there attorneys involved, agents involved? How do you go about it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll jump in and then Paul can give his 2 cents, and Billy as well. I mean, yeah, if a writer has an idea to pitch a series or a feature film, it's going to take, in order for a network or a studio, which is where it's going to ultimately land, there is the journey it has to go on. So you need an agent or a manager to like it and think it's going to work, and therefore know the half dozen, 2 dozen producers who this seems right to, because networks want to make shows with people who have had success on the air, and if the show creator themselves hasn't had a hit on the air, they want to at least know that the person who's going to shepherd it, the producer, the production company, has a success record. So ideally, even though network executives often claim, oh no, we listen to pitches for TV shows directly from writers all the time, they rarely say yes to them. So the idea is you want to go in the room with a team, and it takes an agent or a manager usually, or you can have your own personal relationships with the right producer. But usually it's pitching with producers, which was the round that Billy and I were on. We were pitching to find a producing partner who would then, if they liked it, they would bring it to their studio that they or the studio they feel was most appropriate for it. Same thing with television. A producer would then bring it to the network or networks that are most appropriate for it, which is sort of the route I took on every show that I've sold or pitched.
Now here's the thing. Here's a question. And for me to answer yours, Nile, is how I got my foot in the door was because of the comics.
Yeah.
So they want you in. I mean, I've never paid for a plane ticket out to Los Angeles, ever. They've flown me out. A really funny story, Paul. I don't know if I've told Steven this. I've told you that. Is that I was on. They flew me first class from JFK out to probably 99, out to the left coast. And I'm in first class, and I had a deadline, so I brought a little board with me and my pages, and I get on the plane, and I have my own seat in first class. There's no one next to me. But who is sitting on the other side of me is Gwen Stefani from No Doubt.
Oh,
right?
nice.
So there's Gwen Stefani, and she's adorable, and she's just really cool and everything. So I'm sitting there drawing, and I think we walked on together, and I got to act like I'm cool, right, Paul? You know, and I'm like, oh my God, wow. I said, you guys are amazing. She said, oh, thank you. And next thing I know, I'm sitting 2 aisles away from her. It's a long flight to Los Angeles from New York, you know? So I'm sitting there, and there was a guy sitting in front of her who was a manager for a band. and the band was on the plane, gentlemen. But the band was in coach. So he's sitting in first class, and he's giving her the CD for her to listen, pushing it on her. And you can just see she's so upset. You know, she doesn't want to have anything to deal with this. So I'm sitting there drawing away, and she ends up getting up and going to the bathroom or to the loo, right? As some may
To the
say.
bog. It's to the bog, mate.
To the bog. And
Yeah,
then
to the
she ends up walking. After she gets out, she sees what I'm doing because she sees me sketching away. And I don't know, I was probably dressed exactly the way I'm dressed right now, you know? And I'm sketching. And then she comes and she's like, what are you drawing? What are you doing? I said, oh, I make comic books. You know, it's like, oh, wow, I love art, you know, comic books. You know, I love Archie comics. And she ended up sitting next to me on the plane all the way out for the next like 3 hours or so. And hearing stories about her that she's Italian. I'm like, oh my God, I'm Italian too. And about her dad and stuff like that. It was so much fun. And the thing is that producer was trying to get in on our conversation too, though. You know what I mean? Because he felt this was his in. And I'm like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? Get out of here. What are you? And she loved that because I was so unaffected because I was just a dopey cartoonist, you know? And I'm like, well, I made this comic book and now they're flying me out here because they want to make a movie of it. And, you know, when you hear that, you know, they must think you're the bee's knees or the cat's meow.
Well, I hope they didn't give you. I hope they didn't give you a per diem. Oh, am I echoing for you guys? Because I'm echoing.
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
Okay, Boomer.
There it is. Oh, that stinks. What do I do about that? Nile. That's what
You should wear your earbuds, Steven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Well, you can talk. You're fine. Get.
All right. Well, no, it's so someone else pick up. I'll figure it out while you guys go.
Billy, the reason why you're like me, man, I've never met anybody that I'm that impressed with. Like the people I wanted to meet, let's see, Muhammad Ali, the Dalai Lama, Neil Armstrong. That's it, man. Those are the only three people I'd probably stand in a line for, and I might do about an hour and a half, and then I'm done, right? Well, so I deal with actors and people all the time in my job, and I meet all kinds of people that have all kinds of accomplishment. And hey man, we'll put our trousers on one leg at a time. You know, you just not that impressed with Gwen Stefani, not because you don't care. She seemed, I'm sure she was really nice and everything.
Oh, dude, I was like, wow, oh my God, she's beautiful. This girl, I was this tall, beautiful, you know what I mean, rock star. It was cool, but I gotta be cool. You know, I'm like, yeah.
So's your wife, so you know,
and so's yours.
There you go, right?
And Steve and your lady too, and Nile, yes,
I like girls.
Lovely Farah.
Indeed. Wait, Billy, here's the story you have to tell, because Billy, you assumed when you came out here that people are the same all over.
I did. You have
to tell the story about how you went to Cafe des Artistes when it used to be here in Hollywood, and there was a little bit of a wait to get in, and what happened that night when you happened to see a certain TV celebrity waiting.
So here's the thing, Paul. They fly me out and they'll put me up in a really nice hotel. But then I'm kind of lonely in the hotel. So I call Steve and I'll sleep in his guest room at his house. I'm like, Steve, can I hang out with you? He's like, yeah, I'll pick you up. Or I had to rent a car or whatever. And he's like, yeah, come on out you live in the hills, you know, so come on out and hang out with us. And we'll smoke and drink wine and stuff like that. But so I told the story, Paul, on your show. That one particular, if you might tell it better and more true, Steve, because I was really so. If you mind,
I tell it
sharing this with our audience.
I actually think I was there, and Billy.
I think you were there.
I think there. I feel like I think
you and Keith showed up afterwards. So
yeah,
if you want to tell us,
all right. That's what I thought. So we're in this little waiting area, Cafe des Artistes, and Fran Drescher is sitting there by herself.
I get there first because we're having dinner at 8:00. I'm there at 8:00.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently in Hollywood, people get there at 8:25 or so.
So she's waiting to go in. Everybody's waiting to go in, but there's like little couches and things, and you can sit. And Billy sits down next to her, and he does the thing.
I was there first. She came and sat next to me.
All right, but Billy does the thing that basically everyone who lives in LA know you're not allowed to do. You're supposed to do. That people in LA want to feel like they live and they can come and go, and they can go to Ralph and go shopping and go to CVS and go wherever the hell they want to go to Cafe des Artistes. So when I see a celebrity, this is like on that list that Paul was saying, I'm not going to kind of break that covenant we all make, and just let them live their lives, you know.
A babe in the woods.
But Billy, which was very sweet of him, he was doing it all just good intentions. Oh my gosh, hello. And he starts chatting up Fran Drescher. And he's like, yeah, hi, how are you? Yeah. And he's saying all this stuff about, we're from New York. And I just want to say, hey. And You know, yeah, you know, you're very, and they're going back and forth.
I lived in Forest Hills, and she loved Forest Hills.
Yeah.
Because I think she grew up in Elmhurst or something like that. Oh my
Yep.
God, my aunt lived in Forest Hills. We had this delightful conversation.
Yeah, it goes on and on. Oh, it's great. You know, I'd love to stay in. And like Billy may have even gone so far as to say, we should stay in touch. And here's my card. And
I don't know if I don't know, maybe.
and
How am I
then,
gonna do that?
and then Billy goes into the restaurant, and he's there with Keith, and then the tables are very close together. There are two girls, 20-something girls or something, 30-something girls.
No, it was a starlet, a wannabe starlet with her date, who was Keith's friend.
All right. Oh yeah. And what did she say happened in the waiting area?
So, and this is for our audience, Paul. I know you know the story, but so we're sitting there, and this, what was she, 22-year-old starlet with a big bow in her hair or something like that, and she was like, oh my God, so this guy was an agent too, like Keith. So this starlet was having dinner with this agent that I guess just wanted her, you know what I mean, type of thing. Because she was probably, I don't know. So, and she was trying to impress him, I guess, right, on what happened, what transpired before he got there, because she apparently was there with us in the waiting area with me and my friend Fran. So, thank you. So, all of a sudden, she starts saying, "Oh my God, you have no idea what you met." No, now we had met them. So we sit down. They sit down next to us. This fellow agent and his starlet wannabe girl, and we meet. We introduce ourselves, right? Oh, this is Billy. This is, I don't know, Marilyn. This is, Chuck, and this is Keith, right? And we had this nice little thing. Hey, good to see you guys. Well, enjoy your dinner. Blah blah blah. And Paul, literally, the tables are as close. That what are they, 2 feet away, Steve?
Yeah, barely.
I mean, unbelievable. Because Cafe des Artistes was our favorite restaurant in Manhattan, and I'm like, oh my God, we got to go here. So all of a sudden, she starts talking about, well, you have no idea what you missed. Oh my God, there was this guy, and he came in and he sat down next to Fran Drescher, and he started talking about New York and how that he's from New York and she's from New York, and that she wanted nothing to do with him. Oh my God, I felt so embarrassed for her. And she like looked at me like help type of thing, and I'm like, and I'm sitting there, right? I'm like, this fucking bitch is talking about me. I'm like, I just met her. That's me. And Fran Drescher is like right behind us, right at the other table. So I like, there's a part of like wanted to get like Fran. So
it also was that clearly the girl who's telling the story was not making eye contact with the situation, so much so that she didn't realize you were the guy.
Yeah. So and now I'm some guy bothering Fran Drescher.
Yeah, that's who you are.
I mean, oh my, what the hell? So.
Well, time helps clarify everything. And I say, looking back on that story, the starlet was right. You were bothering Fran Drescher. That's my...
Apparently so. I did not ask her and say we should stay in touch. I did not.
No, you were not. You were totally in the right. But I remember like, hey. Your pure horror at being thought of that way.
Oh my, yeah. Like, Paul, like, imagine someone talking about
you. It really disturbed you. I remember.
Yeah, and she's a kid. She was probably, like I said, 23 years old, maybe 25. And what am I going to do?
Right.
Black, the Keith, the agent. How dare you? With the thumb. But it's just like, wow. And so Steve's like, Billy. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, because I start getting my voice all up, and I'm all up, and I'm wearing nice clothes, Paul. I had a collared shirt on,
Awkward moments, Billy, make for the best comedy, right? And I've had a few nice awkward moments myself, but I've got like a kind of a doozy, and I just realized I can share screens. So I'm going to share something with you guys. I got something now. I don't know. I know I can share it. There you go. Here we go.
Okay.
So this stuff up here is from a book that we did called Sidekick, right? And the idea is that it's like literally a superhero sidekick, and can't make any money being a sidekick to this moronic superhero. So he takes on to be a sidekick for 4 different heroes at the same time, and his life goes to shit, right? But it's got all these really cool characters in it. Like this is Bitch Slap. This is basically what the Green Lantern would look like if he was a violent pimp. Bucktooth Adventure Dentist. This is your 6-month appointment with excitement. So we got all these crazy ass codependent and then never. So he has like a long additional like he has like an additional long sleeve shirt for the days when he really needs to hide the bruises. Confuso, the world's dumbest robot. Loads of these things, right? So we were working on this project. And
Fluffer.
Yeah, the fluffer's pretty good. The fluffer's
We need to make a whole movie on the fluffer. That's
no, absolutely. So this is the fecal swashbuckler. That's he's the world's foremost practitioner of the art of the dirty Sanchez, right? So, all right, so we got this project, and we go in to pitch Sidekick, and one of the things in Sidekick is one of the main characters is a brick, right? It's a brick called Shirley, and the idea behind this is the Welsh one, by the way. This is Grocknar, Violator of Sheep. He's the Welsh member of the League of Dicks, and I'll give you a couple more. This guy is one of my favorites. Liquid Courage. So his thing is basically he takes a mystical clear liquid known as vodka, and then he imagines himself to be invincible, because he's drunk, right?
I'm familiar with it.
You'll catch up. So anyway, so we go in and we pitch this freaking thing, and we've got this character, and it's a brick, and like the bad guy doesn't, like Ernst Stavro Blofeld always used to have a cat, and he would sit there and he would stroke the cat, right? So in ours, his name was Dr. Scurrilous, and he would have a brick called Shirley, and he would stroke the brick, and he would lead it around with a dog collar. So me and Chris Marino, the artist, we were like, we're going to make up a brick action figure, a Shirley action figure.
I love Chris Marino.
Right? Chris is the best. Chris is absolutely the best. So we get this cat collar and we put it around the brick, and we are like, we think this is the funniest thing. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the brick on and say, hey, this is a brick action figure in case you like it, right? And that's going to break the ice, and we're going to be the funniest people they've ever seen. And then Comedy Central are basically going to sign it up without even thinking, right? So we go and we sit down, and I'm sitting there with the brick, and we're waiting for this guy, Jim, to walk in, and there's me and I think my agent was with me. No, it was the guy from the production company who was with me. And he walks in, I'm like, hey, Jim, nice to meet you. And he sits down, I sit down. I said, hey, man, listen, we brought you a present. I brought you a Shirley action figure, and I put it on the coffee table, and it shatters the coffee table.
Oh, my.
Oh, man.
And it was in that moment that I absolutely knew that we stood no fucking chance in hell of selling that project.
God.
It was brilliant. Yeah, so no dice on that, unfortunately.
I can't believe no one did this show. I mean, this is just like a great show.
Well, we're working on it right now. Actually, we're building it out right now. So we're doing a bunch of new stuff, and this show's really cool, man. This is I wonder if I've got this is Misappropriate. There you go. She's not called Misappropriate for a bad reason. She's she steals stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. That's my crazy. I shattered the guy's.
Well, I got to tell you. There is,
That's
if
cool,
this
man.
doesn't work out, then stick with Fluffer. That's
The Fluffer.
a story of a Fluffer. Now, for those who don't know what a Fluffer is, Nile, please explain to people what a Fluffer is, Nile.
A fluffer is somebody who.
No, I meant Nile. I want Nile to explain what a Fluffer is.
Nile, do it. Yeah.
A fluffer?
Yeah, what's a Fluffer, Nile?
A fluffer is someone that keeps you nice and stiff, ready for production. Hey, let me get my Aunt Louise on.
We should have done this
I had
show
a mate-
live. Son of a bitch. That would have been
I had a
great.
mate here in Georgia, a guy called Marcel. He was a little guy, he's about 5'3", and he claimed, I kid you not, he claimed that he was a nipple fluffer in the porn industry at one point.
Shut up.
Someone
Kid
has
you
to
not.
be. Why not him?
A nipple fluffer?
Nipple fluffer.
See, I don't buy that. I don't buy that. You know why? It's science, right? I mean, ice cubes work well. A little bit of cool water. I mean, that doesn't work. He's a liar.
I
It's
wish
a great
Nile
story.
would run up 5 more things he suddenly started listing on how you can get nipples hard. Would it be so funny to hear Nile keep going on and on and on?
Oh, well, hang on as I'll pull down my thing.
You know, that's Miracle Whip. You know, he's got all sorts of things he uses.
Well,
It doesn't work.
Did you guys want to see? Did you guys want to see Star Trek, by the way? Because I can show you that too. Yeah,
Yes, we want to see
Yeah.
it. Please.
we don't know what's I don't know exactly what's the next in order on this thing, but let me just share you a couple of images so you can see what we're working on right now. This is our Star Trek thing. Okay, so look, I'll just show you like a few images. This is us on set. That's me in the corner right there. One thing that was really funny with the actors was all of them kept looking at their phones, and there's actually at one point I told the DP to roll camera, and I just went and collected everybody's phones and took them off set. Apparently people are tethered to them. This is us. There you go. This is them like looking at their phones. This is right before I stole them all.
Who's your captain? Who's your captain up there?
This guy, the guy behind the project, right? This guy right here. I think you see my cursor. Yeah, this guy Alec Peters. He's a guy.
Oh, Alec. Yeah, we know Alec. Yeah,
he started the project from the very beginning, right? And then we got this guy down here. He's an Afrosian. He's like cost a lot of money. That guy. But the bridge, man, is incredible. Like the bridge is insane.
That set is insane.
It's unbelievable, man. So we had a bunch of fun just messing around and doing our thing. There you go. That's us working on Star Trek right now. So crazy stuff, right?
Now, are the controls tactile? Like, do they do things just to make things happen?
It's funny because at one point we had somebody who was sort of like busy messing around with the controls. I'm like, you realize you keep pressing the warp button. Like if you were actually on that ship, the ship would be flying forward and stopping and flying forward again. So,
well, what is the name of the ship?
The USS Ares.
Ares. So you're very aggressive, very warlike, very Greek, like Alec Peters, the Greek. Peters is a Greek.
Yeah, it's the USS Ares. So I got a bunch of these pictures. You know, this is all behind the scenes, just working and directing and doing my thing. That's an actress, Victoria Fox, and she's just listening to me basically bullshit. So yeah,
it's amazing the Star Wars community and how vapid they are.
Star Trek.
If you do Captain Kirk if you do the Enterprise versus a Star Destroyer, and you just do 2 pictures on Twitter, you'll get 50,000 people arguing over it.
Yep.
Star Trek.
So that's saying who would win? The USS Enterprise or a Star Destroyer?
Enterprise.
No contest.
The fans would win. I don't know.
That's right. Absolutely.
You lost me.
No contest.
Yeah, so we're busy working on that, man, and I do animation as well. So we're bringing up, we're doing Sidekick right now. We're working towards doing it as an app, like a playable app, and even a card game. So you get to play a card game with it, and you basically it's trying to get to throw one punch with your character. Like the characters are the worst characters ever. Like there's Perspiration Lad, and all these really shitty characters. So
perfect. Now, what's going on with you and Kevin Eastman? What do you guys got? You guys got a lot of groovy things lined up.
Yeah,
that's going to shake both spectrums of the industry, comics and film, coming in 2020, 2021.
So Kevin and I have been really good friends for a real long time, Bill. As you know, he gave me my first job in this business. He's an amazing dude. He's a co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And Kevin and I have remained friends. I came in, I was 20 years old, 21, 22, when I started working for him. And I was waiting on tables, man. I was literally playing in a band. I broke my leg playing football, like normal, soccer, right? And I was on crutches, and I couldn't play with a band. I couldn't wait on tables. And I knew those guys because they had done an album cover for my band, the artists up there. And I'm like, I need a job. So I walked upstairs and I'm like, you guys are pretty busy right now. Can I have a job with you? And they're like, yeah, man, we could use the help. And it was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
All right. Awesome. Unmute me. Wait a minute. What brought you here? The big Arsenal fan that you were, Southern London, right?
Well, no. But
Crystal
Palace fan, yes, sure.
No, I'm the Crystal.
Where's the mute button?
Yeah, I know. No, but what brought you? So, Paul, to the U.S. How did that our dear Paul Jenkins, comic superstar, independent film producer, animation producer, writer? How did you? What's your journey? Were you in your band? Were you a punk rocker or whatever you were? What brought you here to the U.S. that brought you to New England that then brought you to the Turtle guys?
So my story is one that most people would have no sense of, Bill. I've only started talking about it in the last couple of years because I think that sometimes my private life is my business. And I started talking about it because I was writing a project. And you and I talked about this actually on my stream a little while ago. We were talking about new characters in comics, right? And I was telling you, yeah, I had a project about people who are marginalized when they, so it's a really good superhero idea. You get someone who has a massive superpower, and then you get someone who's like really got a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. And the story's really cool because it's going to be a collision of forces on the person in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And so when I wrote it, I had all kinds of, instead of trying to insert it into Marvel, which I think you and I were talking about the other day, trying to make them this character or that, or move the Hulk into a young Asian woman. And I'm like, I don't get that, right? And I just don't see the point. Why not just make a cool character that is a young Asian woman? And that would be really interesting, right?
Right.
And so one of the things that happened was we had a bunch of different characters, and one of the characters was trans character. And a few people wrote in and were like, who are you to write that story? And the answer is, I'm a human being, man. Like, if I'm supposed to write what I am, then I'm going to write an awful lot of boring stories about a middle-aged heterosexual white guy that likes to play golf and video games. Like, good luck with that story. Right?
So you were getting resistance because they felt, as one particular writer of a gender experience, you can't expand your horizons and write about someone else?
Yeah, but I want to be clear about something, right? I got some resistance, which I expected. But there were plenty of other people in trans community who were like, fucking way to go, man. Well done. Because I would send each script. It's the hardest book I've ever written. That's that Alters book, right? Mm-hmm. And I would send it to, I had at one point 5 or 6 trans people that I would send it to tell me, am I getting it right? What am I doing? How am I doing with this book? And they would give me a bunch of advice. So anyway, to cut that long story short, I wrote the second arc about homeless person, and people wrote in and were like, who are you? What do you know? And so at a certain point I went, you know what? Here's the deal. I was homeless when I was a kid. I grew up with a bunch of pikeys. I know how it is to be hungry. I've snared rabbits. When I was 7 years old, I used to go outside and snare a rabbit, see if we get something to eat. Yes, I've lived in a place without electricity. I've lived in caravans. I've lived on the streets. So fuck off. Don't tell me that you know who I am, because you don't know who I am.
Right.
Yeah. And I got to a point, and I didn't really want to have that be that abrasive about it. So instead I wrote my little bit, and I said, look, who am I to tell this story about a trans person? Who am I to tell a story about somebody with an amputation or somebody who's homeless? Well, I've been homeless. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a thing that people would never have assumed of me, because I've had a lot of success in this business. And so I came to America with $50 in my pocket. I am the best immigrant story, I came here with $50. I was teaching music and drama to learning disabled children because I really like kids and I like teaching. And I was in Massachusetts chasing after a girl. First experience I had with a gun in America was her dad shooting over the top of the dunes on Cape Cod, shooting dunes at me because he thought I was trying to steal his daughter. So he sent a few warning shots at me. Oh, shit. I was like, man, they do have guns in America. I didn't think of that.
Well, that's where the revolution started, buddy.
There you go, man. Yeah, well, you do realize, right, that you didn't win the revolution. After all, you were all British at the time when you won it, and then you could declare independence. So we won.
I'll drink to that.
There you go. We'll give you one. We'll give you half a point for that.
Well, that's an interesting story about that. I think it was on. Oh man, it might have been on. What's his name? Steve. Steve. The show, talk show. Steve Carell, not Carell. Cobain. What's the guy's name?
Colbert.
Colbert. And he had a show about what are the greatest gifts that people have given to the world. And he had a guest on. I think it might have been some English actor. I forget who it was. And he said, well, what's the greatest gift that America has given to the world? And it could be, jazz, right? Think about it, right? Jazz and stuff like that. Maybe comics, right? Things like that. That's the gift that America has given to the world. And he said to him, well, what the greatest gift that England has ever given to the world? And I think the greatest gift that England has ever given to the world is America. And I think Nye Perfect might agree with me on that
I
one.
might agree. Yeah.
Just might.
Having a British accent over here is kind of a license to print money.
Yeah,
So,
oh my God. And it's a license to get girls because your wife is stunning.
she's gorgeous, yeah.
And I wonder if you had a Brooklyn accent or a New England accent, because I don't know, man. Does she like your accent?
Size 13 feet, mate.
Are you really size 13 feet?
No, I just made that up, but it was.
Sounds like size 13 feet.
Yeah, I was about to be like, I have a 13. It's, you know,
Do you really?
all true. Yeah.
Oh, true.
Well, anyway, so
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I think you can't write what you are. You have to write what you learn and what you experience and all that. And so no one would ever have thought that I was that person, but I am that person. And so I came over here. I've loved every second of it. You know, I love America. I love living here. It's been amazing to me. It gave me a life because I got away from my parky ass family.
Man, well, there you go. God love you. And you know, that's the thing about Chaplin. And Steve, you know, I'm a huge Chaplin fan. And with the Tramp, because that was Chaplin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Growing up on the East End of London, I mean, the horrific conditions. They didn't even have rabbits to throw a rock at to eat.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge Charlie Chaplin's my favorite, one of my favorite humans of all time. He really is. I identify with him. It's so funny because I love Churchill and I love Chaplin. And the thing is that you couldn't have two people on either end of the spectrum, political, economic, artistic, but they loved each other. They remained lifelong friends because they respected one another. Well, that's not me, but that's you. And but Chaplin was the Tramp. And there is something so pure and beautiful about that you have your experiences. And I think today, though, in the whole someone hiding behind a screen that can just fire away and fire salvo your way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's someone from nowhere, has no idea who you are. Well, who are you though?
Well, I tell you what, we all know this, right? Because we're creative people, and so you put yourself in your work all the time, right? I mean, you're writing about things that you know or things that you see. I wrote The Origin of Wolverine for Marvel, and so if you think about how that came down, they were in bankruptcy. We came in, we did Inhumans. It kind of helped propel them out of bankruptcy because they hadn't won an Eisner in many years, and then we ended up winning one with the first thing I wrote for them, and they just handed me everything. I went, write Spider-Man, write the Hulk. And at a certain point, I pitched them Wolverine Origin, and I went, I was at the Joe Quesada's first editorial retreat, and I was sitting there apparently looking a bit grumpy because it was the same old stupid set of ideas. And the publisher, Bill Jamis, came up to me and said, why are you so annoyed? And I'm like, well, because you're supposed to be the house of ideas, and every time someone comes up with a good one, you tell them no. And he was actually cool about it. And he said, yeah, I agree with you, actually. What do you have in mind? And I said, well, why would you say no to like something, an idea? Like, why can't you do The Origin of Wolverine or something? And he said, I don't know why we can't do that. Long story short, I ended up writing The Origin of Wolverine. And if you've ever read it, I don't know if you have, but the first issue is literally about a kid at the bottom of a hill looking up at a farmhouse with all the lights blazing, and his life is shit. Where do you think I got that story from? So, I'm in my own work all the time. I'm always inside my own stuff. But the Origin of Wolverine story is literally an autobiographical story about my life.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I mean, this is all a very, complex issue, particularly in the times we are living in. And that people say, write what you know. And clearly, if that was the case, no one could write stories about the War of 1812. None of us were there. We didn't live there, so should we not write about things that we didn't experience? But it's right. I think it has to do with your empathy, with your point of view. When you pitch, when you're pitching, there's often a part of the pitch, which is the why you. Why am I the guy to write this story? And which is basically just saying, how do I connect with it? What are the things that excite me about it, that brings me to my keyboard with enthusiasm more than just a dollar sign? Actually, I actually connect in some way. So yes, this pedantic thing of that, only an Italian can write about Italian, only a transgender can write about a transgender. I agree that we need to bring as many voices in to the world as possible. But in the meantime, if no one else is walking in the door with this story that you wanted to pitch, why, you're here, you showed up with it.
Yeah.
So, if it works, because stories just have to work. Why push you out of the room? I mean, 5 years ago, I sold something with a female protagonist of a female issues, and I don't know if I'd be able to sell that same project today.
And that shouldn't be
my face on it.
It shouldn't be that way, Stephen. It shouldn't be that way, right? Like, I'm gonna kind of point something out to you, and I think that this is probably for all of us to understand this. It's something that should be important to us as creators to go and protect. We should be able to protect ourselves in all of this. Don't tell me I can't do it, because when you're telling me I can't do it, that means you can't fucking do it. That's what that really means. And so, you mentioned the War of 1812, right? And so, who am I to write about the War of 1812? Actually, I was on the other side, right, shooting rockets at Baltimore Harbor. Except my descendants
feebly
are all Welsh, so they weren't on a ship. They were just hanging out with sheep over at Armstrong.
Are you really a Welshman?
Yeah,
I love it. Hey, man, the 24th foot at Rourke's Drift were Welshmen. If you
Yes,
ever
they were,
Zulu, they were all Welshmen.
my
97 Welshmen against 4,000 Zulu warriors, man.
my son, who I'm so proud of, his favorite film is Zulu. And every time you watch it, he cries.
Oh my God, I cry.
I'm so proud of us. I'm so proud of our film.
You should be proud to be a Welshman, yeah.
So let me tell you something about the 1812, because you just reminded me of something that I think is really important for us to understand. When I was working with Marvel, if people would ask me what's my favorite work that I ever did, it was always the Captain America work. I did this book called Theater of War.
And this is where Paul and I, this is where Billy's going to get very agitated and very heartbroken.
Yeah,
son of a bitch. Because this is the greatest piece of work that I should have and never did work on.
Yeah, I wish you had.
I apologize.
We'll do War again. Anyway, so Theater of War was something that I cared very much about, and it's me writing about the American military, right? And every time that I would write it, the first story, they asked me, would you write Captain America? I called my editor up, I pitched him the first story, and when I pitched it, he let out a little laugh right at the end of it. And I said, I know what you did there. You were going to cry, weren't you? And he said, you bastard, I've been in this for 35 years, and you just made me cry. but from that, the stories were progressively more of a love letter to the American military. Now, why is that coming from a British guy? Well, because, in Great Britain, we respect the fact that a bunch of young men came and, helped us get out of a shit situation and invade Europe, so we have a big affection for the Americans. And I wrote one, and it was called Ghosts of My Country, and it started, and I just found it, by the way, and again, I can share this a little bit if you guys would like to see it.
Yeah, please.
So I kind of want to lead you through it just so you can see what this is about, and I'll get to my point in a second, but it's worth taking a look at. So this thing here is Ghosts of My Country, and the idea was that this particular scene that you're looking at right now is there's a guy, and he's on a ship that's in Baltimore Harbor, and he's writing a poem that we've seen before. It's written by Thomas Jefferson. It's written by John Adams. It's written by him. It's written by a young soldier who's dying in the Ardennes. So every time they write this poem, as they're writing it, it's called Ghosts of My Country. And as they are writing it, Captain America appears to them or is a ghost near them because he's the embodiment of the American military, right? And so in the very first scene, there's a guy, and it's 1812, and he's in Baltimore Harbor, and he's writing a poem called "Ghosts of My Country," and he's been kind of sequestered on a British ship, even though he's American, because he's trying to negotiate for the release of a prisoner. And this guy's not getting anywhere, and then he's basically kind of kept on the ship, and he has to watch his country's lawless bombardment by the English, and they're sending Congreve rockets over into Baltimore Harbor, and none of the rockets go off, and in the morning, he wakes up and he hears a noise, and it's a whisper. And when he hears the whisper, it's Captain America whispering in his ear, and Captain America says, "Look up, look up." And he looks up and he sees the flag that's all shattered, but it's still flying. And that guy is Francis Scott Key, and he ends up writing the American national anthem right there and then, which is actually where the inspiration of Francis Scott Key came from. So when I wrote that, one of my favorite reviews I've ever had in my life is a person who wrote in from the US military, and he said, I'm kind of amazed that it took a British writer and an Italian artist to teach me the true meaning of American patriotism. It was like my favorite review I ever got, because I was like, thank you, man. Like, that is really meaningful to me. And so when you think about it, all I did was research, and I cared about it, and I wanted to do it. As long as you can research it, then you should be able to write about it. And as long as you can, relay it to yourself. So never, ever listen to anybody that says you shouldn't be doing that, because that just means they shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, one of the best movies about the American mob is Donnie Brasco, which is directed by, I forget, I'm blanking on the director, but a British director. And it's that outsider's point of view that makes the film extraordinarily fresh, because he was coming to it without any personal connection to being Italian American or other American crime films. And so there was a certain beautiful scrutiny that the film has, and it's there aren't two mob films like Donnie Brasco, and I think it's specifically because of an outsider directing it. Because yes, we're all humans. That's the whole idea. Is we're here to share. I've collected you to share a story specifically through my eyes, and really, it isn't about me. It's about the story, and the story has to be the best. Yeah. So it doesn't matter who wrote it. I don't want an inferior story about Greek Americans by me when there's a better one by the Chinese guy next door. Let his Greek American story come out if his is better than mine. Yep. I don't feel like it has to be mine if mine isn't better. The audience is all that matters.
And so that's right. It's all about making the best work. And so there's Cap, Billy. There's Cap on that. There's that image that I told you where he looks up.
It's a beautiful piece of work. I'm just so jealous of it. Because when you told me that, and we cried.
We did.
Paul told us, well, Stephen, and for the people out there watching, and Nile, the story progresses far beyond that. Yeah. And it goes to a story of a young private on Normandy. Yeah. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story. And it's one of those stories, Steve, and we've had conversations for 35, 40 years now. Steve, you ever hear a story that's so good that you get mad?
Sure.
You know what I mean? You get I literally got angry when you told me this, that I was not a part of this. and I think you even agreed, like, oh my God, we would have done. I mean, the art's beautiful. It's a beautiful story. But damn it, if we'd done it together, hot dog. I mean, sitting on that, like, look at this. I did that.
It's very much a story of it was about Captain America finding a body at Normandy, and he had served with the guy, and he ends up taking his dog tags back because he promised the guy that he would introduce him to the most beautiful woman he knew, and he ends up delivering a eulogy, and he throws the dog tags into the water, and as they fall in the water, you pull back and you realize he's delivering it under the Statue of Liberty.
Oh wow! Oh my God!
It's got goosebumps.
I got halfway decent ability to tell a story. I hope.
You son of a bitch. You get me every time with that one. And the whole emotional impact is that Paul and I talking about this, and just like, I think it was after Sergeant Rock came out, so you saw how much I loved that too. And well done, good for you.
Well, we'll do one anyway, man, because I got other stories that are just like it that will always be.
Tally ho, I'm in.
Always do one, So we got off topic because of me. That was my fault. I'm really sorry. We should be talking about Hollywood.
Here's another story about writing something, and I had gotten some resistance, and I think I turned a corner at a convention. It might have been New York, it might have been San Diego, with a panel, and people like saying to me, like, oh, now the story of She is that Anna, my character, she's a soldier in a shadow war that's existed since medieval Japan. Since the fall of the samurai, the samurai class was abolished. They were then continuing as samurai, though, but now their battlefields were not on the plains of Japan, but rather in the boardrooms of corporate Japan, in the arts, in entertainment. You know what I mean? That's how this shadow war is working throughout all the power precipices of Japan. And someone said to me, well, the story of Anna is that she's drafted into this war after her father and her brother are killed. And someone said, well, oh my God, that's a typical story that the father is killed and the hero takes up the mantle, the glove, or the mask or whatever to avenge his father and his brother. And what makes yours different? And I basically said, my father was killed right before I was born. And my 17-year-old brother, who would have graduated with Steve's brother John, was hit by a drunk driver and killed not 2 months after he got his driver's license. It was a Sunday in March. It was always Steve. Remember the Wizard of Oz was always on. It might have been the Sunday before St. Patty's Day or so. And we had my mother's cooked this great Italian dinner. His girlfriend was this adorable gal. He had just gotten his driver's license. He's driving her home, and she probably lived 3-4 miles away from our house in West Islip or something, the next town over. And some drunk driver with a suspended license ran a red light and hit them and killed my brother. So that was my point. It's like, how do you know what makes she so different than all the other, anti-hero, Punisher type, vengeance stories? And I said, well, that's what I know. I saw my family go through this, and I needed an outlet, and I kept it inside. I never, Steve, we never talked about this growing up. Yeah. And my outlet was to take literally take a pen to a manila, to an 11 by an 8.5 by 14. Remember the legal pads? Mm-hmm. And I wrote the entire story on a legal pad because that was my outlet. I guess that was my therapy because before you had therapy, there was no one to talk to back then. And I said, that's my thing. I
want to interject something. The answer to that question every single time, what makes this different from every executive I've ever spoken to in Hollywood or every fan or anyone, like, what makes this special? When I came on Spider-Man, I was told you can't write Spider-Man anymore. It's finished. And then me and Bucky did our first issue and all the fans went, oh my God, this is amazing. And we didn't even do anything new, right? We actually did we kind of brought him back to his roots and they still thought it was great. So the answer to the question, what makes it different, is you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's us. It's. I've never written Spider-Man before, so don't tell me I can't do it because I've never done it before, and so that's what makes it special, and that's what makes it different is the fact that you're writing it, and it comes from things that and it's always going to be the case of creative people.
That's what I tell. I teach writing, film and TV writing as well, and I see you all have these ideas circulating around your head. You're not sure what you should work on, what you should start with. And I said, the hint comes from your title page. It has a title of something and it has the word by and has your name. Mm-hmm. And people want to know they're reading something that only you could have brought them. Yeah. But even if it's a cop show, even if it's whatever it is, a family drama, they need to know that you're the only one who could have brought it to them, because what they're expecting, what everyone is expecting when they get a piece of writing, creative writing from somebody new that they haven't heard of, young or just young to an industry, they are assuming what they're about to read is a mediocre knockoff of something that's already out there, because that's what you think that they are looking for. Mm-hmm. So don't satisfy that suspicion of theirs. They want to know that this comes somewhere in there, that you're the only person who could have brought it to them from your experience, your point of view, how you were raised, something you went through psychologically, emotionally, mentally, something you witnessed. That your father went through, your mother went through, your brother went through. You don't bring that there. You're just going to bore the hell out of yourself when you're writing it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, that's why we have professional writers, right? I mean, people hire professional writers because they're not good writers. Even for their own, biographies and things. I mean, if people have the passion and you do the research, I mean, well, you guys know, you become it. Mm-hmm. You literally become it, So if you're writing a medieval story, it makes perfect sense. We don't live in those times. But when you research it and read the books, watch the videos, the documentaries, whatever you need, you almost like become it. My story is based in medieval times, and then, it's based during the Black Plague, which is kind of ironic with what we're dealing with right now in a fun, in kind of a funny way. Right. But I'm like becoming it. Like I get very passionate about the time and speak of it. Well, that's what I'm doing. I mean, I've got mountains of books on medieval weaponry, books that, were I thought would be hard to read, but because you get so passionate about the story you're writing, it's not. So, just learning about how they brush their teeth, You know, it's just all these simple, minute things, but you just become it, and it's well, you can write anyone can write anything. You know, it's the passion about it and having the skill.
Yeah,
you know,
always true. And when you take over someone else's characters, whether it be Marvel's characters or some video game that I work on or something like that, oftentimes I'll talk to the people and they'll say, I don't know if you're going to care about this as much as you care about your stuff. And I'm like, that's not true. You know, I always care about what I make. It's not going to have a piece of me in it.
Yep.
And what's fun with comics is you can care just as much because, you know, if you're actually a fan of comics and you grew up with comics or hit that point where you really became a fan, then that character is your character, right? Like if I ever had the opportunity to write Batman, you know, I didn't create him. I didn't do some of these amazing stories out there, but he's my character. Like I love Batman, you know? I mean, so if someone ever gave me the opportunity, hell yeah, I would love it just as much as anyone else that's ever worked on the franchise.
Well, see, and here's the difference. They have someone like Paul, someone like Steve, someone like you, someone like me coming in to write this. But now these people that are getting these jobs, a lot of these people are being brought in on these mainstream books, and they don't like comics, and they say it. They want to change comics. They don't like the character. They don't care about the character's past. Did you see the new DC book Gotham? That Bruce Wayne is now he's half Chinese, and Marsha Wayne was originally Masha Wayne. And all the money that came, the Wayne Foundation, all the money that Thomas Wayne accrued or the Wayne family was from Masha's family from China. And Thomas Wayne is not a hero now. This is the shit they're installing. They're trying to make it like a Riverdale thing. And because so all of Thomas Wayne's money, all of Batman's money was taken from Masha, whatever her name was before she was married, to Thomas Wayne's family. So they're trying to fundamentally change the whole Batman lore.
Yeah.
Well, but look at the movie Joker. I mean, look, my feeling is, look, we maybe have two minds about it because clearly that is not going to be what you just described. Will not be historically what goes down as the story of Bruce Wayne.
It's being published now, Steve.
But it's not. Yes, I understand that, and as the outsider in this group in terms of comic book, I just feel like, you know, it's sort of like the thing with remakes of movies. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you remake it and try to actually do the exact same thing, why did you try to copy it? If you do something different, you know, why did you tamper with something that was so perfect? It's like my feeling is if you're going to revisit something, let it be a revisit. Let it be an alternate version. Let it be your inspired. I mean, like I said, the recent Joker is a perfect example of that. That is not the comic book story. Or the tone of which the comic book story was done. It's taking it and going on a different path, you know, and saying, here's the way this work inspired me. And I don't think what you've just described is ever going to usurp the quote unquote traditional origin story of Bruce Wayne and all of that. It's just something else. It's just another way to
throwing so much behind this. The DC Comics is throwing so much money behind this to promote this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I got to be honest with you. When I saw the Wayne family, you know, Bruce and Martha and Thomas walk out of Zorro, the gay Blade, in Joker film, I had a big smile across my face. Like, well done. That's cool because that would make him, you know, time appropriate and all and stuff like that. But I think they're trying to change things for change's sake for an audience that isn't there.
Yeah, you know, Bill, I know we talked about this a little bit, but I'm probably an outlier because I'm not a comic fan. I don't know that much about them. I never did. I never followed them. I kind of knew Spider-Man and Daredevil when I was a kid. I happen to work in the comic book industry, but I'm a writer that's done a lot of work in comics, you know, and also games and animation and film. So I'm not really a comic guy, but I'm very much seen as being a comic guy, which is funny to me because I'm sort of like, I probably know less than most people about comics.
Well, for those out there, Nile and Steve, Paul's a comic book superstar.
I don't know anything about him.
So,
but I've done well in comics.
Man.
I've done well in comics because I care about storytelling and the craft of storytelling. And so one of the things that was literally to my advantage, Billy, was when I came in, I actually didn't know these stories. And so I could actually write something new. Stephen, you know, you're just talking about it, right? But the one thing that I did that is different from what you're describing is I never made change for the sake of change. In
Right.
fact, I tried to keep it where it was. So I'm going to go back to a project that I'm pretty familiar with because that's kind of where the American market got very familiar with me, which is the Inhumans, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
When I wrote the Inhumans, nobody knew. I mean, I had written Hellblazer for a long time, but really I wasn't in the mainstream sort of superhero thing, and I'd never done superheroes before. And Marvel asked me to come over and just let me do whatever I wanted to do because they were
At the time, it was a D-list title.
Yep. So my answer to them is give me your shittiest title and let me go. Right. So I come over and then we win an Eisner. And like I said earlier, that they hadn't won an Eisner for years. And the one thing that was interesting about that was that they literally sent me, I kid you not, 2 5-page stories by Jack Kirby. That was it. I'd never heard. They asked me, "Do you want to do the Inhumans?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd never heard of them. Who are they?" And they gave me 2 5-page stories, and I actually called them and said, "Could you do me a favor? Don't send me anymore. That's it." So I got all I need.
That's all you need. Yeah.
So I read these 2 5-page things, and there's one funny anecdote in it, but basically, immediately to me, in this world, and some people are obviously probably not familiar with the Inhumans, but you got like a power-based society of people that are nominally kind of like mutants. Like, you know, they're their own subspecies of one. And so the king's going to be the most powerful, and everyone filters down from there. And so I thought it was a metaphor for America. It's kind of like the melting pot of America. But one thing that was interesting was there's a character called Karnak, and Karnak is the shatterer. So what he does is if he gets this bottle of Jack, he knows where to touch it, and it just shatters. He can see the weakness in any part of anything. And so I wrote him as an advisor to the king, who could see the weakness in Inhuman society. And when the book came out, the fans were like, Paul Jenkins is a genius. This is the most amazing, refreshing take on Karnak. What a great guy. This guy's, you know, the most brilliant writer ever. And I'm like, oh shit, I thought that's what he did.
Yeah. Follow Kirby, yeah.
So I think it's a balance, right? It's actually doing things that are new to some extent, in the sense that if you just rehash the same old thing, Stephen, like you said, if you rehash, you're damned. If you do something too new, you're damned as well.
Right.
But the true core of that is just tell a good fucking story. My God, why can't you tell a good story? If it's not a good story, then who gives a shit? And that's what I see in a lot of material. I see it in a lot of lazy comic books. I see it in a lot of lazy films. They don't care. They're just putting product out.
Yep.
That's the problem.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's like safety.
Yeah, but it's a recipe for failure. It never works.
But you know what it does? It keeps the dogs off them. It feels like, you know, because the books just aren't that great. And you're 100% right. Like with Batman, right? Most Batman fans like just continue on with the story. You know, start a new story arc. That's all they ever did for 75 years. I mean, you know, you didn't need much change with Batman. You know, they did do different takes. Batman Beyond. Okay, that was a cool take on it. You know, because you still had Bruce Wayne, right? So there was another Batman, but it was very believable. Because I mean, yes, all Batman fans knew there's going to be a time when he's going to grow old and he can't do it. You know, someone's got to take the mantle.
I think there's a core, Nile, you know, in all of these stories, and this is where we can do new things, right? If you take a look at, I wrote Two-Face one time, and they let me change his origin, which is really cool. I mean, they let me change it. And the origin that we projected was that he had a brother when he was a little kid, and the brother was a pyromaniac, and he'd done something crazy, and he had actually, the kid was burning the house, and he locked him in the door by mistake, and the kid ended up dying. So when Harvey Dent, who's Two-Face, gets older, he's so guilty about killing his brother accidentally that this half of him becomes his crazy fucking brother, Harvey. So he's just a duality. He's being torn apart by these two people.
Oh.
And so it's called Batman Jekyll and Hyde. And it was basically, he knew that that Murray, his brother, the dead one, was winning. The evil side was winning. And he was like, I got to give up on it anymore. He's going to win. So it's a really cool idea, and I think it was a great story. Jay Lee did the art, and Sean Phillips did the art.
Oh my God!
Cool,
yeah.
And that's a new story, right? They never had a brother for Two-Face, but my contention to them was it's all built into Two-Face because you don't go crazy because someone throws acid in your face. That doesn't send you crazy. No. You just get hurt and you feel sad. You probably had it in you already, so that was the catalyst for what drove him crazy. What actually driven him crazy was that he had killed his brother by mistake. He didn't mean to. and he carried this guilt with him all these years, and now it just sent him crazy. Well, that's the way that you want to change the past stories. You want to use the character and suggest something that could have happened with that character.
Yeah, well, because the core of Two-Face Harvey Dent is still the same.
Yep.
Except instead of it just being a split personality disorder, he created his brother in him through guilt.
Yeah, and it made sense, right? And so
it makes more sense.
Yeah, it wasn't like messing the character. It was actually maybe helping define the character, I thought. And that's what we should try to do. Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, no, you can't just do these superficial switch ups if that's literally all you're doing. If you're doing nothing else, then I see Billy's point. Again, I don't know this.
Well, what do you think of it? Well, give me an example, Steve. And I know that you came into comics, and again, we're comics, and Paul, I include you. We're comics to film. Steve has filmed the comics. He's a self-publisher now, and he's doing incredibly well with what he's doing. But you look at, say, the Ghostbusters revamp. The first one, they just changed them for change's sake. Made them all female, not making it integrated, and it bombed. And I think that people respond to like, well, why not give a little nod to the original?
No, that's that's been the big joke is no, it isn't that people didn't go to see it because it was the fanboys kept away, or they kept away because it was women. Sometimes the reason is the movie isn't good.
It's just not a good movie.
People, and that goes to Paul's point. You got to tell good stories. Yes, is it a good idea to revamp Ghostbusters as a bunch of women? There's nothing inherently wrong with that idea. I think that's good. And now, what are you going to do with that? Great, you had that idea. What are you going to do with it? And now you still have all the same issues of storytelling, execution, et cetera, and connecting to an audience. And clearly, that movie didn't do it. So I don't think it's a bad idea inherently.
No,
I don't want to see somebody challenge. I love the iconography of Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Hal Ramis, et cetera. I necessarily don't want to see 4 new guys step into it. So to me, it's actually probably more comfortable to see 4 women step into it. Did I go see it? No, I didn't hear great stuff about it. Plus, it takes a lot for me to go see a movie like that. I've got to hear good things, from trusted sources, or I've got to need to go see it, and I didn't need to go see that. So,
well, there's a couple of films, and 2 films in particular that strike me to that. And tell me if you guys agree with this. That had that. You look at the Mark Azzaro, right? The 1996 film with Antonio Banderas. It opened up okay. Box office was okay. That film grew over the summer because word got out that this is a good movie.
Imagine that. It was a good movie.
Right? And you see the box office returns for that were going up. You know what I mean? And same thing with Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman opened up with a lot of fanfare. It did, but it was also the comic thing, and a lot of fanboys like, Gal Gadot. She's kind of slight for Wonder Woman. You know what I mean? We went to go see that film, and my wife cried 3 times during that film.
Good.
And you look at the box office returns for Wonder Woman, week 2 and week 3 were bigger than week 1.
Yeah.
Because it was word of mouth that people started like talking about this film, and it went higher and higher. Same thing with Tombstone, the Kurt Russell film. Remember that opened up right before White Earp, and this is what's his name? Costner. After coming off of Dancing with Wolves, his next project was after Waterworld. Then he wanted to redeem himself. Was Wyatt Earp? He's going to tell the real story of Wyatt Earp. When they did Tombstone, they didn't even have the Thursday or Wednesday night critics launch of Tombstone because they feared that the reviews would have been so bad. Well, lo and behold, that was a really entertaining film.
But it's also a film like Austin Powers that found its audience in home video. And so what was a modest box office success then suddenly became, so that's why when Spy Who Shagged Me came out, it made so much more money in the box office than Austin Powers, because suddenly these people had watched this weird movie that came out that the American audience, the general American audience, wasn't ready to embrace. They, in the safety of their TVs, they did, and then it made the second film such a big hit.
Well, Jimmy Palmiotti and I, our buddy Paul, went to go see that. Jimmy and I had a huge fight. We might have broke up one of the umpteenth time back in the early 90s and stuff. And he's like, come to the movies. Let's go see this Austin Powers movie. And we had to go see it at the Ziegfeld, I think, 57th Street. and it was packed, and people were roaring, laughing
Mhm.
at the absurdity of it all. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It was, and
Mhm.
it was such a fun movie experience. You know, you had the popcorn, you know, the whole thing, and it was just, it was such a
Very
fun.
committed. It is a film that is committed to its point of view and its characters and its and its sense of detail. So you either hitch a ride with it or you don't. I remember reading that when I first came out here, and I was a reader for William Morris, and I remember thinking, this is genius. I read it because it was submitted for some talent that they were casting. And I couldn't wait to see it because it was literally one of the best scripts that I had read. It was totally there on the page. Every single joke is there. It was like watching the movie.
And yet, still not even his best film, because So I Married an Axe Murderer is just a piece of genius. I love that film.
Yeah,
It's a great movie.
I've yet to see So I Married. I think it did
for
rounds
sure.
on PBS, but I haven't seen it.
For
You have to see it now. You have to see it now.
I will.
Brilliant.
For shame.
For shame. Absolutely.
Niall, can you say that?
Yes, you can, for shame.
Am I as loud as you or no?
Yeah, you're very loud.
Am I really loud if I do this?
Yes, because you're right in the microphone.
For shame. That's why I moved the microphone from over there, my boom mic. Well, gentlemen, this is a wonderful thing. If I may, Paul, Stephen, Niall, do you have any advice for people that may want to take this adventure to Hollywood or in pitching a property? Is there any kind of advice? Because, like I said, it is you're walking to a lion's den by people that don't have any. How do you say?
I mean, yeah, my advice is, first off, pitching is and that's a whole show in and of itself. But it is a means. It is not the story has to be there. So pitching is an art of how to communicate it. So it really starts with what is it that you're coming in to communicate. And again, what do you have? You don't have a hit show that was assuming you don't have a hit show that was on the air. All you have is you. So you are what you're selling and your connection to the project. So make sure you work on things and that you are passionate about, because people are not only deciding whether they want to work on your show or your movie, that it's something that can work with you, because that your passion for it is contagious, that all the people they're going to have to round up to be a part of this, that you are somebody who they want to work on, and they get that you're going to be a part of this. So you have to care. You have to love the every single project that you are walking in rooms with to try to get other people into. You have to love it. And if you don't love it, you shouldn't be doing it. The idea of researching it daunts you, or you go, oh, and I'm avoiding it. You shouldn't be working on it. Not talking about the research. Paul was. If you aren't excited to spend hours and suddenly look at it, 8 hours have passed. Oh my God, I'm just reading nothing online but this thing. I can't believe. That's what you should be working on. If it's daunting and you're just doing it because you're trying to chase a buck or a trend, don't chase a trend.
Never chase a trend. Never chase a trend.
Yeah, that trend's going to be gone by the time you're done. Plus, all the other writers, they've stockpiled. Every network, studio, publisher has stockpiled submissions chasing that trend. Don't be the next one.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a whole lot of stuff to throw out at people, but that's a lot of the stuff I tell people. Paul,
I kind of add to that, Stephen, as well, by saying, when you talk about passion, I'm like, listen, passion's not going to get you anywhere if you're no good at writing, right? No matter how passionate you are. I think what I kind of like to add to that a little bit when I do like my college lectures, whatever, is confidence is exactly equal to accomplishment, right? And so you can look at it, and Billy and I, we started talking about this a while ago when Billy took up golf, and I'm a pretty decent golfer. And I said, man, let me tell you something. When you're confident as a golfer, and you can actually do this with a camera, you can do it with your phone. If you record somebody swinging, you put them in the middle of a field and you give them a 6-iron and you go like, just whack it over there, they'll probably be able to do it. And now if you put a pond and a green up there with a flag on it and say do the same thing, they can't do it. They physically change because they're not as confident. So they can do it, but they choose not to, or they find a way not to do it. So for me, walking into LA, a lot of times I just walk in, I'm like, I know what I can do. That sounds arrogant, but it's not arrogance, it's confidence. And I've had a situation where I was in with my agent and we were pitching over at Fox 21, somewhere like that. and it was going badly. And I didn't normally do that many bad pitches, but just wasn't really going. And the guy said, well, do you have anything else in the science fiction vein? And I said, yeah, man, I've got this thing. And I told him the story, and it was complete bullshit. I literally made it up on the spot. And the guy was like, yeah, that's pretty cool, man. That's good. And I walked out. My agent was like, what the fuck did you just do?
But
He
it,
said
yeah,
it was a good pitch, but did you just bullshitted the guy? And I'm like, I don't think that's bullshitting. I think it's I can think of stories in a second.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can navigate the business.
Yeah, I know a guy who came in and pitched because he saw a book sitting on a guy's desk that he was pitching something else to, and he took a leap of faith that was something that the guy was interested in.
Yeah,
And he just riffed a pitch on it, and he got a deal
brilliant.
by a pitch that he did not have before. But it's so true, Convents, because I always tell people, the people on the other side of the desk are hoping that you will take control of the meeting, and you will and you will be filled, that you will be a strong presence and have a lot of competence, because they're used to misanthropic writers. I said, be the one who takes control. They talk that whether it's apocryphal or not, I don't know. But John Singleton, that they used to talk about, that's how John Singleton got Boys in the Hood made. He's a USC grad, and he had some heat, whatever, off of whatever student work. And they say that he just came in and just took control, and everyone's like, yes, we'll give you this amount of money to make this this first film of yours.
I believe it's true, Stephen. And one thing, I can tell I have like the best anecdotes. I really do. I end up having real crazy luck, and I'm like the craziest person to be around in this business sometimes. And I can tell you this cool story about Terry Jones from Monty Python. That's
wow, yeah, sure.
So it's sort of a long story, but I'll try to encapsulate it. I've told it before. So one time I was working with the Ninja Turtles, and I came in from Great Britain, and I went all the way to LA, and it was the day of the Northridge earthquakes. So I landed in LA, and the Northridge earthquakes happened, and I'm like, shit, they do have a lot of earthquakes here in LA, and I had no idea, right? So the ground's like jelly. I'm really jet lagged, and I was there with Kevin Eastman, my great friend, the Ninja Turtle creator, and he asked me if I wanted to go to the Playboy Mansion that night. And I said, I'll be honest with you, man, I don't. He was sort of amazed, and I said, no, I just don't, I can't be into it. And so he went off to the Playboy Mansion, and I went down to the bar, and it was this really swanky hotel called the Sunset Marquee on Sunset.
Sure.
And I walk in, and there's like Bill Maher is standing right next to me, and Ian Astbury from the Cult with black contact lenses is standing next to me, and I end up chatting with these two guys, and the people in the thing were all convinced I was the drummer for Metallica, because I was in this really big suite and I had a leather jacket, but I wasn't. And they kept putting telegrams under the door for this guy, and I kept taking them to the front saying, I'm not the drummer for Metallica. And they kept going, absolutely, sir, we know your secret. And I'm like, I promise I'm not that guy. So I had this crazy night. Next morning I wake up and I walk out, and I'm really jet lagged, and it's really early in the morning, because in Britain it's probably like 2 p.m. I sit down, I look up, and there's Roger Moore, and he's sitting opposite me, and Bruce Springsteen sitting over there, and there's a couple of starlets at 7 a.m. jumping in and out the pool, and I'm like, get me the fuck out of here! Like, this is not me. So a little while later, Kevin Eastman walks in, and he says, Paul, you're never going to believe who I met at the Playboy Mansion last night. Terry Jones from Monty Python. And I said, great, brilliant. And a little while later, Terry walks in, and Kevin brings him over, and he says, Terry, this is my friend Paul. And I said, hi, Terry, you live next door to my mum. So it turns out 2 weeks before, my mum had called me from Llanidlos in mid-central Wales, and she said, you never guess who moved in next door to me but Terry Jones from Monty Python. And she told me she knew him from down the pub, and she would go to the laundrette, and she'd see him and his wife there, and they were very nice. And 2 weeks later, I end up in the Sunset Marquee with Terry Jones, and now Terry just wants to talk to me.
Right.
Said,
That's cool.
I know your mum. And I said, yeah, you know Hazel from the pub. And he said, are you Hazel's boy? And now so we get talking, and we're chatting. And one of the things that was really funny, he just wanted to talk about like home. And he really didn't like LA, and he really didn't like the agencies, and he wanted to just talk about this, that, and the other. But he told me that he'd arrived the day before, and he got in a limo, and as he got in a limo, his agent was in there, and they didn't like, the Python guys never liked the American agents. They hated the agency. And they sat in the limo, and the guy said, okay, so do you have it ready? And Terry said, what are you talking about? And it turns out he was supposed to be making a pitch that day, and he was supposed to have come up with something. And he had no idea, no one had bothered to tell him. So in the limo on the way to the TV company, he just makes up a pitch. And it was called Blazing Dragons. And the idea was that the dragons were the good guys and the knights were the bad guys. And it was set in, Camelot kind of thing. And he walks in, he pitches it for 5 minutes, and they sign it up. And now he's making the TV show as a cartoon. So he and I sitting there, we're cackling. We're like, yeah, this is fucking crazy. This town's insane. And that was cool. But a few, I ended up corresponding with him. We would email each other and just chat and stuff like that. And he knew my mum, right? And so a few months later, I get a phone call from a game company, and they're like, hey, Paul, I wondered if you'd be interested. We have a video game we'd like you to write. It's called Blazing Dragons. It's by Monty Python's Terry Jones. And I said, I know Terry. So to my mum. So I ended up writing the video game Blazing Dragons. And the best part of it was a few months after we finished doing it, I got a phone call from this desperate producer, and they said they had tried to get to Terry through his agent, and the agent was being an ass and wouldn't let them get in touch with him. And they really wanted Terry to do the voices for the characters, but the agent was getting in the way. And they understood that I knew Terry, and they asked me, can I get in touch with Terry Jones? And I said, okay. So I called my mum, and I'm like, hey, Mum, can you go down the pub and find Terry? And she went down the pub, and she found Terry Jones, and he ended up doing the voiceovers because of my mum.
That's great.
That's funny.
That is great. That's a perfect story.
That's Hollywood.
That's it in a nutshell. There it is.
And two things. I apologize for leaving for a moment. My wife had been calling me about 15 times, and then she yelled at me for stop smoking in the house.
Oh, boy.
Come on.
And
Oh, you stopped. So who's the boss?
But the other thing is, so Terry's a Welshman too, because Jones is a real Welsh name, right?
Yes.
And the Welsh are the 24th foot at Rorke's Drift. Here, once again.
That's right.
I love that film Zulu. It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
I love talking about it with my kid because he's 14 years old and he's a typical teenager, right? And then if you say Zulu, he gets all teary.
All right, so Paul,
But it's a great atypical Michael Caine performance. It's not what Michael Caine became for all of us.
oh right,
He's this effete, snivelly little rich. It's like this is not
My father, the general. Yeah.
That was great. It was a great role for him.
Yeah, it really was. It's terrific. It's
So he became a star as this, this Cockney East Ender.
yeah,
Becomes a star playing the son of aristocrat.
yeah.
Amazing, wonderful.
All right, Billy, this has been an absolute pleasure, sir.
Gentlemen, Paul, we want to have you back on again. You guys are going to launch your new campaign.
Yes.
Love to have you and Kevin on if you guys will. This was
come
what
on
we're
and
going
talk
on
to
with
us.
our little, just us talking, because that's what Nile and I have been talking about. We want to do that, and then YouTube said we should do like a recorded show. But would you guys mind? Would you be averse to coming back on live?
We would love to. And also behind me, you can see a book. This is sort of like, actually, I think you can see it. It's sort of like the animals in the forest. It's an image from this book, Fairy Quest. So one of the things that's kind of funny about me is if you go back to when Kickstarter was starting, actually Humberto Ramos and I were the first mainstream creators to go and put a book up on Kickstarter. So Fairy Quest was we really took a risk as well because we were a bit scared. We weren't sure, we were busy working on Spider-Man at the time, and we weren't sure if we should do it because it was a very different thing in about 2008, 2009. And so we actually launched Fairy Quest, and we did really, really well with it. So we did 2 Fairy Quest. People loved it. And then it lay quiet for all this time. We haven't done it since. So we're bringing it back. Fairy Quest is the other one that we're doing. So we're bringing it back.
With Humberto?
No, not with Humberto. Different artist. Mike Borden is doing it. And
Nice.
so it's going to be back in the saddle and going back to Kickstarter is actually what I love. If I'm going to do comics, I'm going to do it through crowdfunding because I'm not massively into the mainstream stuff, and so that's where we're coming back. So I would love to come back on and actually, I just like the conversation. Honestly, guys, it's nice to hang out with your friends.
Mhm.
Absolutely, it is, and I don't know, man.
You're welcome to come on, even if it's not for your campaign. If you want to come on for anything, topics we have, we'll reach out to you because we're doing Monday nights, and you too, Steve. Monday nights is kind of like just our week of comics. We'll just kind of talk about what's going on. It doesn't even have to be not everything's going to be comic related. It could just be what's going on, or a lot of times we just get on weird rants. That have nothing to do with anything.
And the thing we want to do for Monday nights, Paul, is it's like I said, it's almost like a free for all. Is that to talk about box office returns for films, but also for comics with all the crowdfunding, how big crowdfunding is, and we want to talk about the winners for the week and the losers. And it gets kind of sketchy because we might be friends with some of these people, but the people want to know what are the campaigns that are doing well, the ones that are not.
Yeah.
And so we want to get more into a news thing because we all have our personal preferences, we all the things that we like, our passions, but we want to do crowdfunding comics, and so many people want to seem to come on because we want to do I guess we're comic creators want to be journalists in a way, you know what I mean? which is kind of fun. To kind of get the insiders look into that and how the insiders, how the people that are actually doing these campaigns and how creating these books feel about it, as opposed to someone from the outside just critiquing. You know what I mean? So
absolutely, I'd love to do it. That'd be great.
Well, thank you guys.
A pleasure.
Nile, well done. Paul, we'd love to see you guys again. Heck, I don't know what you guys do next week, but we can do it again. We got Jimmy Palmiotti coming on.
Let's do it.
So,
I'm in.
Let's do it. If you got, we went way long, and Steve and I talked today about 45 minutes. All right, let's do 45 minutes. But Paul, like I said, man,
it's not. I'm gonna tell you again. This is the 500th time I've told you, Billy. You can't do 45 minutes. It's a minimum hour and a half. These things.
I know, and we just go on, and we didn't even touch the tip of the iceberg. So
we needed horror stories. So now we're gonna have to do a part 2.
We didn't even get the horror stories.
We gotta get to the horror stories.
Yeah, all that stuff. So
all right, we'll find them.
Yep. Well, thank you guys, Paul. You guys are trailblazers with us. Thank you both I know how busy you guys are, and we know how successful you are and how popular you are with your own platforms. So thank you for coming with us.
A pleasure.
Yeah. And we're going to bring more people in. We're going to have a lot more fun with us. So
sure, absolutely.
Very excited with both of what you guys have going on. So thanks again.
All
Thank you guys for joining us, and we hope you all have a great week. Stay safe. All right, stay safe, stay smart, and we'll all be together once again.
All right, fantastic. All right, guys, thank you.
Hey guys, thanks again for tuning into Crowdfunding Comics. We look forward to hanging out with all of our crowdfunding fans every time we go live. And don't forget to click the link below and subscribe to our channel. And there's a little bell, you may want to hit that too. This way you get all the great notifications when we go live and when we upload some awesome content. You want to follow us? Sure, go right ahead at Twitter at CrowdFundComics with an X, Instagram Crowdfunding Comics, and Facebook at Crowdfunding Comics. Till next time, crowdfunding fans, we'll see you soon.